プレゼンテッドバイトレジャー。
Yo, this time we'll be going over Treasure on 6th generation consoles. This is the 4th episode in this Treasure series. Previously I covered Treasure on the Genesis, 5th generation consoles, and the Game Boy Advance and Game Gear. Now I disappeared for a little bit. I had another video I was working on, but I wasn't happy with it. The good thing is it gave me ideas for future projects. Also, life just keeps me busy. Well now, before we get on to Treasure, please do consider subscribing. I have other compilation videos with in-depth reviews and story recaps. I also want to say thanks to my son for being my player 2 in a lot of these games. He's 22 and has his own stuff going on. He always watches and gives his input. He was a huge help on the Resident Evil spin-offs, and, well, pretty much every video. Now let's kick things off with Bangai-O on the Dreamcast. Let's go! Bangai-O was first released in Japan for the Dreamcast on December 9, 1999. Next released in PAL territories on October 20, 2000, then in North America on March 21, 2001. This version of Bangai-O has new graphics and music. It was also released in English. The N64 original never got out of Japan. The original also had a very limited print run, making it very difficult to get a physical copy. Well, the Dreamcast version got a lot more exposure, and this is the first of 3 Bangai-O games. Now this game isn't much different than the one I covered before. This time though the game is in English, so I was able to read the tips. And the arranged soundtrack is pretty good. Bangai-O stars a brother-sister duo Ricky and Mammy. Ricky is a member of the People's Police on Dance Star. He gets beat up by goons from the SF Cosmo gang. When Ricky returns home, he finds that the SF Cosmo gang beat up his dad too. Ricky reveals the People's Police's secret weapon, Bangai-O. His sister Mammy joins him, and they head off to take down the SF Cosmo gang and their illegal fruit smuggling operation. Bangai-O plays like a twin-stick shooter. For some odd reason the D-pad and analog are the default setting. This control scheme is awful. Luckily it can be set to the D-pad and face buttons. The duo switch between piloting Bangai-O. Ricky fires heat-seeking missiles, and Mammy gets a machine gun. Her projectiles bounce off the walls. Both are useful for different situations. They also have a super attack that fires in all directions. I made a mistake on the Treasure on 5th generation consoles video. I didn't know about Mammy. I thought I pushed all the buttons on the controller, and I couldn't read the tips. Well, I just wanted to say something about that. Stages are filled with buildings to blow up with fruit inside. These can be collected for points. There are plenty of enemies and enemy spawners as well. Bosses tend to come back in later stages with additional attacks. They start off extremely easy. Bangai-O is a very fun and addictive shooter. Once again, hours flew by and I only stopped because I had to start writing this video. I gotta say this is a great choice for a game with simple pick up and play controls. The difficulty definitely goes up, and it pays to be a little cautious. The new graphics and music make this worth checking out if you've already played the N64 version. I highly recommend both.
After the Zakarite Civil War, mankind is about to confront a new threat. A threat from the darkest corner of the universe.
Silpheed the Lost Planet was first released in Japan on September 21, 2000, next released in North America on April 10, 2001, then released in PAL territories on May 11, 2001. This game is a sequel to Silpheed, which released in 1986. This game has a lot of story, but none of it is very interesting. Considering this is a vertical shooter, there really is a lot of setup. So yeah, aliens invade, only Silpheed ships can save the day. A lot of these were destroyed since leadership took too long to decide if the aliens were a threat.
03, report target's condition, okay? We are in the military after all. Okay. Huh? Love readings?
Now it's up to a lone pilot to take down the alien threat and save humanity. Silpheed plays okay enough. There are no power-ups to collect or anything. Also, if there is some type of screen-clearing bomb, I don't know how to use it. The game's main mechanic seems to be the multiple weapons you can unlock and equip to your ship. The ship has 2 weapon slots for the left and right side. The game starts you off with 2. They unlock really slowly, and the game is kind of boring. It's not really bad or anything, it's just an average shooter. The game's presentation is a high spot. The art direction really shines here. Really, what's going on in the background is the best part of Silpheed. The music isn't bad either. Silpheed the Lost Planet really got old quick, and I didn't really have any desire to keep playing. If you want to play a treasure shooter, go with Radiant Silvergun or Ikaruga, which is coming up later in this video. Keep in mind, a lot of these are joint productions. Treasure might not have had too much control over Silpheed. If they did, then oof, this one's a miss. Stretch Panic Freakout was first released in PAL territories on July 27, 2001, next released in North America on August 28, 2001, then released in Japan on December 6, 2001. Stretch Panic Freakout stars Linda, a little girl living with her mean sisters. Linda receives a strange present that unleashes demons that possess the sisters in Linda's scarf. Oh yeah, and it transports her to another world too. This is Treasure's first 3D platformer. In true Treasure form, it's definitely unique. Linda moves around with the analog. That's the only direct control you have with her. The right analog controls her scarf. The scarf can grab onto objects, enemies, and the stage. Pretty much whatever you can see on screen that your scarf can reach can be grabbed. There are two big issues I had with the game. The first one is the lack of a jump button. The only way for her to get to higher places is to grab onto it and wait to be flung there. The other one is since the right analog moves the scarf, there's no way to control the camera. I didn't get too far into this game. Mainly I just didn't care for it. I really wanted to like this game. Bright and colorful, from the one enemy I did encounter it seemed funny, and the music is pretty good too. When I dropped into the first stage, I was not expecting one with giant double Z's to be wandering it. To defeat them, you have to grab them from behind and smack them into their ginormous melons. They can also fly with them.
Oh my god!
Just like Light Crusader, this game has some people that are really into it. While it wasn't my cup of tea, you might like this one. Ikaruga was first released in Japanese arcades on December 20th, 2001, then on the Dreamcast in Japan on September 5th, 2002. It then came out on the GameCube, first in Japan on January 16, 2003, next in North America on April 15, 2003, then in PAL territories on May 9, 2003. Work on Ikaruga began while Treasure was developing Sin and Punishment for Nintendo. Director Hiroshi Yuichi, with the help of programmer Atsutomo Nakagawa, put together a prototype. Hiroshi Yuichi worked on the game at home with his spare time. Ikaruga is the spiritual successor to the outstanding Radiant Silvergun. This was supposed to be a trilogy of shooters with Radiant Silvergun's theme being World and Ikaruga's theme being Will. Just like its predecessor, Ikaruga is a vertical shooter. The ship can change between white and black polarities, or red and blue. All projectiles are either white or black. By changing the polarities of your ship, it can absorb projectiles of the same color. Bullets fly at you from everywhere. A lot of the time they fire off in almost hypnotizing patterns. Maneuvering through all this is tough. In addition to the waves of bullets, you'll be fighting many ships and a lot of mini-bosses. On the left of the screen you have a meter that fills as you absorb bullets, letting you shoot multiple large seeking projectiles. Stage design is absolutely awesome. There are so many obstacles, like the walls coming in and crates moving and blocking the way. Stages all look great too. The soundtrack, also by Hiroshi Yuichi, is pretty good, and it's actually pretty close to the style of Hisoshi Sakamoto. The GameCube version has some extra modes, like Practice, Conquest, and Challenges. None of these really do anything to change the game, but they give you a few different ways to play, like going as long as you can on one credit, or slowing the stages down into sections to get better at the game. Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun are two of my favorite shoot-'em-ups. This is a game I used to play a lot when I was younger. It's still a one-of-a-kind shooter that I highly recommend. Wario World was first released in PAL territories on June 20th, 2003. Next released in North America on June 23rd, 2003, then in Australia on July 10th, 2003, and in Japan on May 27th, 2004. Real quick, I want to say sorry about the aspect ratio changing so often. It's just for this game. Following the successful development of Sin and Punishment, Nintendo and Treasure teamed up for Wario World on the GameCube. Wario had already had some handheld games that he starred in. This is the Evil Mario's first console outing. Wario World begins with Wario finding a gem that has an evil spirit inside it. The gem turns all of Wario's treasure into monsters. Wario ain't having that, so he's off to get it all back. Wario World is a beat-em-up platformer. Wario starts off in a small hub world with 4 worlds. Once you beat one, the next one unlocks. Wario goes into battle against enemies with a few different attacks. For his normal attacks, he's got a melee combo, a charge attack, and a butt stomp. After picking up larger monsters, Wario can spin them and run through enemies. He can also pick them up and pile drive them, doing a ground pound that hits all nearby enemies. Then he has a throw and a super throw. Combat is definitely fun in Wario World. Each stage has trapdoors around. Inside are platforming puzzles. These are required. At the end are gems. Each stage boss requires a certain amount of challenge. These are fun. There are some very cool challenges in the trapdoors. When Wario falls off a stage, he ends up being chased by ghosts that are after his money. There are boxes around, and only one of them has the exit. Boss battles are a lot of fun too. Each stage has a boss, then there's a main boss for each world. Wario World is really a lot of fun. Treasure and Nintendo really delivered something very cool here. This has been the best part about playing all these treasure games. There are quite a few I've never played before. Well, I'm really glad I gave Wario World a try. I recommend it if you've never played it before. Dragon Drive D Master Shot was released in Japan on August 8, 2003. This game was only released in Japan. I'd never heard of the Dragon Drive anime that this game is based on, so I watched it. Dragon Drive is a manga written by Kenichi Sakura. It follows Reiji Ozora, an incredibly lazy guy that gives up on everything he starts. His friend Yukino tells him about a new VR game that's unlike anything else. The anime is similar to Sword Arts Online but backwards. They play the game for like the first 6 episodes, then it's the game of death. That was the thing that killed me about Sword Arts Online. They were stuck in an MMO. If they died in the game, they died in real life. Once they got out, they were just playing games together. I really lost interest. My son still swears by it though. Anyway, back to Dragon Drive. The game is a third-person shooter. Reggie flies around on Chibi's legs or on his back when he reveals his true form.
Chibi, 俺に力を貸してくれ!
Chibi has a fire attack, and I'm not sure what the other one is supposed to be, but it's kind of like a thinner machine gun. Chibi also has a guard and gets some buffs and healing from cards he finds on the battlefield. Chibi can also hover in the air and move sideways as well as up and down. Most of the time he'll be flying around arenas, but there are on-rail stages similar to Panzer Dragoon. Chibi has other ways to fire. There are 2 cards that I didn't unlock, but yeah, there are more attacks for Chibi. Unfortunately, I couldn't beat the 3rd boss. I was interested in seeing the other world, but mainly because I like the anime. For the most part, the game felt okay. If this is the type of game you're into, I say give it a shot. It just wasn't for me. I do like the music in this one though. Gradius V was first released in Japan on July 22, 2004. Next released in North America on September 14, 2004, then in PAL territories on October 8, 2004, and in Australia on October 29, 2004. What? Treasure developing for Konami? Wow. Okay, well, due to limited resources, Gradius V had to be outsourced. Senior producer Osamu Kasai said that Treasure was the best choice. Once again, Hitoshi Sakamoto composes, and this is a damn good soundtrack. Unlike Treasure's previous shooters, Gradius V keeps its trademark power-ups. With the power-ups, you choose when to use them. Each of the 4 types for the Vic Viper has different weapons. Using a power-up right away will speed the ship up. If you save them up, they'll move to the next weapon. I played a little Gradius over the years, but this one sucked me in right away. The game has some really good stage design. The enemies you'll be facing are biomonsters and ships. The bosses in this game tend to keep you trapped. This game is incredibly hard. My son said Gradius V makes Ikaruga look like a game for chumps. Hell, even putting this game on super easy will get you super blown up fast. The game gives you 3 credits. This counts for both players, so if you play 2 players, only one of you can continue. Gradius V might be Treasure's best looking game so far. These stages really blew me away. Now, as cool as Gradius V is, the difficulty was really off-putting. My son wouldn't play with me again. I've beaten Ikaruga a few times, so it's not like I completely suck at these games. It's just really a pain having to speed your ship up again when you die. The Vic Viper moves really slow after being blown up, but even still, after giving it some time, I went right back in. It's just a fun game, but yeah, I had to take breaks. I say give it a shot, just be ready for a challenge. Sega Ages 2500 Series Volume 25, Gunstar Heroes Treasure Box. Jeez, that was a mouthful. Was released in Japan on February 23rd, 2006. The Sega Ages series are re-releases and sometimes remakes of classic Sega titles. The series began on the Sega Saturn. Working Designs released one in North America. Anyway, this is a compilation featuring Gunstar Heroes, Dynamite Headdy, and Alien Soldier on the PS2. So this treasure box wasn't worked on by Treasure. M2 ported these to the PS2. It's a little more than the 3 Genesis games. With a cheat code, Gunstar Heroes on the Game Gear and the prototype can be unlocked. Same goes for Dynamite Headdy, but it's only the Game Gear version. I don't have a whole lot to say about the treasure box. The prototype of Gunstar Heroes didn't have many differences with the final product. I just noticed a lack of an intro and more slowdown than usual. So yeah, I cover all 3 of these in the first episode. The concept art for these games is cool. You can see that Blade Gunner was the original working title for Gunstar Heroes. Yeah, that's about it for this one. I just figured I should mention it. That was Treasure on 6th generation consoles. Sadly, there's only one group of Treasure games left to cover. Also, like I said in the last video, there's one I can't play because Bangai-O Missile Fury HD was delisted. So, do you have any memories of these Treasure games? If you do, leave them down in the comments below. Please like if you liked it, please subscribe, peace.